Hey there, Wastelanders. Welcome back to War Games News Radio and another installment of Better Know a Faction, a series where I run down the different special tactics and rules for factions in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the New California Republic, which have just been released as part of the New Vegas expansion. And to celebrate the release of the New Vegas wave, I'm doing another WGNR giveaway, and this time around, an NCR Ranger promo model. Now, this model was released as a teaser for the New Vegas launch way back in 2020, and those of you who've been lucky enough to get your hands on this model know that it's also being used as the courier, aka the main playable character and protagonist of New Vegas. Now, to qualify for the giveaway, all you've got to do is subscribe to the channel and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Now, if you want to double your chance to win, follow the links down below in the description to either our Instagram or Discord servers. Join up there and you'll have double eligibility for this giveaway. So when you're done checking out this video, follow the links and become a member of this little community we've got on the go. Now that we've got the freebie stuff out of the way, let's take a look at the different units and special rules that you can use when putting together your NCR forces. The NCR can trace its roots all the way back to the original Fallout games, and as the name would suggest, they are based on the West Coast in the ruins of post-war California. The NCR has come a long way since first showing up in Fallout 2, and this faction is always expanding its territory. They're one of the major players in New Vegas with sights set on the Strip and Hoover Dam, and they're the closest thing to a real-world government that you're going to find in the Fallout games, and as such, their forces resemble a real-world military structure. So let's take a look at the different special rules and units that you can use to put together your NCR forces when taking on Caesar's Legion or whatever else you might encounter when out in the Mojave Wasteland. Now, the NCR is primarily a shooting army, and their faction special rule can really come in handy when your units are taking incoming fire in a gunfight. When an NCR model with a prepare token is the target of a shoot action, that unit may discard their prepare token in exchange for gaining an additional piece of cover when calculating the attacker's shoot action. So by choosing to discard the prepare token in this way, a shooting attack targeting that unit is going to suffer a -2 penalty to hit, and your NCR unit will gain a +1 to its armor value. Similar to using luck to reduce an attacker's skill roll, this special rule can be used after the incoming attack has already been made. But unlike luck, you're not dependent on a successful 50-50 luck roll to take advantage of this dodge ability. Now, one thing to note is this can't be used in addition to a luck dodge, so no. While it would be awesome, you can't use the special roll to make a combined -4 against your NCR units. It has a much different flavor than the other military-focused factions like the Enclave, and it makes preparing your units a much more useful tactic when fielding an NCR army. But remember that only units with the appropriate NCR keyword on their card will be able to take advantage of this faction special rule, and that's only if you have a unit with the NCR keyword as your leader. So definitely be mindful of this dodge special ability when building your New Vegas themed forces, especially if you have a lot of non-NCR companions on your list, as they won't be able to take advantage of this unique special rule. Now that we have a handle on this NCR faction dodge special rule, let's take a look at the units in this faction and take a look at some of their different strengths and weaknesses. First up is the standard NCR Trooper. Now, this is your basic troop choice and one of the most affordable NCR units, so they have a fairly basic spread of stats across the board. They have a base perception of 5, which means that they have a slightly less than 50-50 base chance to hit with both pistols and rifles. Melee is not their strong suit, and they're also not the best objective runners around, also lockpicking off that agility stat. Now, they only have 4 base hit points, but their armor isn't the worst, with both a physical and energy armor of 2 and a radiation resistance of 1. Now, the NCR Trooper MP, which stands for Military Police, is a slightly better melee unit, hitting on a base of 4, again off their agility, but their range attacks take a hit with a perception of 4. And they're only limited to pistols for ranged weapons, so unfortunately, you're not going to be able to strap a rifle on one of these guys. Their hit points and armor are the same as the standard trooper, but their objective holding abilities are a bit all over the place. They search on a perception of 4, hack on an intelligence of 5, and they only lockpick on a 2, which is based on their luck. Now, they're a cheaper unit, but by all of 1 cap, so they come in at 39 points, but they're an affordable option if you're looking for a unit that's going to be a little bit better at hacking or at melee combat. Now, the NCR Heavy Trooper is a bit of a different beast compared to the other troop options in this faction. With both a strength and endurance of 7, you might be tempted to use them as a melee bruiser, but they're actually going to be your dedicated big gunners. While that high strength does give them an extra black die when making melee attacks, they actually make their melee attacks on their agility, which is only 3. So really, you're going to want to give them a minigun or light machine gun and let them loose on any Legion or Raider hordes that come your way. Now, they are very tough customers with 7 hit points and a natural 2 physical and energy armor. So they can certainly hold their own and become extra tanky when you put them in a suit of NCR salvaged power armor. Now, this ups their damage resistances to 3, 3, and 4 and increases their endurance, so their hit points, by 2. And unlike other power armors, the salvaged suit doesn't actually degrade, so these stats are always active. Now, unfortunately, that salvaged armor doesn't do your trooper any favors in a melee fight. With a -1 to agility, a trooper in salvaged power armor's melee chance to hit goes down from a not great 3 to a very low 2. But they have a longer range than the standard troopers when using grenades and thrown items, but again, they only hit off that low agility score. Like I say, you can use them if you have to in a melee fight, give them some weapons that have some additional green die to increase their chance to hit, but you're gonna want to give them a big gun and send them into the middle of the fray. It just makes sense with all that armor. As mentioned earlier, this is by and large a shooting faction, and the first recon sharpshooter is the best of the best. Now, while they can't use pistols, they do hit on a perception of 7 when using rifles, and they have a bunch of special rules which make them deadly when picking off units from afar. Because of their specialty, they get a +2 to hit when using sniper rifles, so they're actually going to be hitting on a 9 when using that weapon. And because the sniper rifle gives you 2 green dice at long range, you have a way better than average chance to hit when taking advantage of this sniper special ability. They also ignore 1 piece of cover when shooting at a target in long range, and they always hit their intended target when shooting into a melee. Now, because of all these buffs, they're the NCR's most expensive non-unique unit, and at the time of this filming, they're coming in at a whopping 125 caps in battle mode, which is significantly more than even the veteran ranger, which we'll talk about in a bit. But if you have the room in your army, they're well worth it in my opinion. They're extra tough with 7 hit points, but their physical and energy armor is only 1. So you're going to want to keep them at the back of the field and away from the enemy so they can pick off targets at range. Moving away from the troop choices, let's take a look at the real workhorses of this faction, the Rangers. Now, there are 3 different Ranger variants in the NCR, and they all have a good mix of both combat and objective skills. The Civilian Ranger might be my current favorite of the 3 because they're both affordable and versatile. Searching on a 5, lockpicking on a 6, and hacking on a 7, they are excellent and diverse objective runners. They can also spend a quick action to make an expertise test, which can come in handy if you're playing an objective-heavy scenario. The ranged abilities are the same as the basic trooper, but they're one of the NCR's few units which actually shine in melee with an agility of 6. And because of their CQB ability, they get to ignore the penalties for using a ranged weapon in close combat, but only when using a pistol. But be careful if you're going to use them as a bruiser, because they're not the toughest unit around with only 5 hit points and 1 armor across the board. Now, for a few more caps, the Patrol Ranger is a much more hardy unit compared to the Civilian, with 6 hit points and 3 physical and energy armor. They're also a slightly better shot than the Civilian, hitting on a perception of 6. Their base agility is not amazing at just a 4, and especially when you're comparing it to the Civilian Ranger's agility of 6. But if you're able to increase that patrol ranger's agility with something like the military fatigues, or give them a weapon with some green accuracy die, they can make for a fairly reliable melee unit because they have a lot of armor. They're also still a decent objective runner because they both search and hack on a 6, but they take a hit compared to the civilian ranger when lock picking. All in all, they're a pretty good middle of the road pick when it comes to the Rangers because of their affordability and their good mix of skills across the board. But when it comes to Ranger badassery, nothing compares to the veteran Ranger. They're pricey at 95 caps as of the filming of this video, but they're the NCR's best all-rounders. They hit on 6s in both melee and ranged attacks. They have 6 hit points and a staggering 4 physical and energy armor. They also search and lockpick on 6s, and they hack on a 7, so they're easily the NCR's best objective runners as well as combat units. They're resistant to stun and gain an extra green die when making skill tests for both stranger and creature cards. On top of that, they can actually carry 2 unique weapons at the same time. Now this is the Ranger Sequoia and the Anti-Material Rifle. These are pricey weapons at 12 and 37 caps respectively, but being able to carry both at once makes them absolutely deadly because both weapons deal 3 base damage. Plus, it fits the whole New Vegas lore perfectly. That covers it for the NCR's rank and file units, but let's take a look at the unique options in this faction and see how they buff all of your standard NCR forces. General Lee Oliver is the NCR's commanding officer, and he's no slouch on the battlefield. With 7 hit points and 3, 2, and 1 armor naturally, he's surprisingly tough for a CO. He hits on a 7 in ranged combat, which is up there with the NCR's finest veteran rangers, but he's limited to pistols. Interestingly enough, he also hits on a 7 in melee combat, which actually makes him the best melee option in your NCR force. On top of all that combat goodness, he searches and lockpicks on a 7, so his objective-based skills are actually pretty good, but noticeably he can't hack at all even though he has an intelligence of 7. His special abilities can really help you give a tactical advantage on the battlefield as well. Once per activation, he can give 1 of his action points to another friendly model within his presence range of black, so long as that model isn't currently engaged. And his tactical ability lets you subtract 2 from your total model count when determining advantage at the start of a round. But keep in mind that this ability can backfire if Oliver is incapacitated, causing you to add 2 to your model count when determining that advantage. So even though Oliver makes a great combat unit, be careful that you don't get him taken out of the fight, or you're going to lose that advantage almost every time. A Chief Hanlon is another hardy, unique unit who can give some useful buffs to your NCR soldiers. Any NCR unit within his black presence range gains the ability to make movements or charges as quick actions, and they can ignore an incoming battle cry. Hanlon also generates 2 action points when he activates, which he can then give out to friendly models that activate within his own presence range. Now, to take advantage of this, you're going to want to have Hanlon activate before the models you want to give the action points to. He's a half-decent shot, hitting on a perception of 5, but just like Oliver, he can only use pistols. His melee isn't great, hitting on a 5, but Hanlon does get an honorable mention as an objective runner because of his staggering 8 intelligence, making him the NCR's top hacker. Now, this is kind of a fun little nod to his backstory in New Vegas, and in case anyone out there hasn't played the game, I'll refrain from spoiling that for you here. He's affordable as far as NCR units go at 75 caps, so I have a feeling that his aura abilities are going to make him a pretty popular unit choice, especially in a Ranger heavy list. Last up for the NCR is Lieutenant Gorobets, leader of 1st Recon's Alpha Team. Now, he is a pricey one, coming in just below the standard 1st Recon Sharpshooter at 120 points. He's a slightly worse shot than the Sharpshooter, hitting on a 6, but sadly he doesn't benefit from that sniper rifle specialty. At first glance, he's not all that attractive an option given his high priced and what appear to be slightly nerfed stats compared to the 1st Recon Sharpshooter. But where he really shines are in his special abilities. Any other NCR unit within his blue presence range gains 1 additional hit point and he can ready one other friendly NCR unit within yellow distance whenever he activates. If it were me, I'd pair him up with a sharpshooter acting as a bit of a spotter, so to speak. This is going to give you a reliable fire team that can pick off targets at range, or they can shoot and scoot across the battlefield, picking up objectives while your other troops provide cover. Now, fans of the NCR and 1st Recon in particular might be wondering why I didn't include Boone on this list. I'm saving Boone for a video review of all the different companions that are coming out as part of the new Vegas wave, so stay tuned for that, but rest assured I'll go over how those different companions fit into their respective factions as well. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Better Know a Faction, but make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below for your chance to win that NCR Ranger promo model. And if you want to double your chance to win, follow the links in the description to our Discord and Instagram channels and follow along there, join the conversation. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to win that prize, and we're having a lot of fun talking about the game. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned when next time on Better Know a Faction, I'll be talking about the NCR's arch nemesis in the Mojave, Caesar's Legion. Stay tuned, WGNR will be back.